Hi guys, hope you're doing well. I posted on one of the MS Society forums that I was looking for some content about things to discuss, and one of the things that came up was about how to manage your MS when you're working. Now this is something that is quite close to my heart in a really weird way. I basically now become employed with a lovely employer who couldn't be more supportive of my condition and have made many reasonable adjustments to help me grow within the business. Unfortunately, my previous two employers weren't so with the same tact. I won't go into too much detail, but there are some things I've learnt along the way that can help in terms of surviving in the work environment. It may be transferable things that you might be able to use if you're in education. When I was in education, I didn't know I had MS, so it was quite tricky for me because I didn't know what was going on, why I wasn't able to focus on things and remember things. And in a way, I wish I could redo my education, especially my degree, knowing the things I know now, because I think I could have done so much better, but what's happened's happened. But certainly for work, there's a lot of things that can help. Firstly, if you join a company, then it's obviously up to you whether or not you disclose your MS or your invisible illness or condition. I found that by disclosing it, it gives them a heads up. It helps them to be able to understand how they can help you. But obviously that's down to each personal individual's choice of preference. I know some people don't like to say that they have a condition, but for me, I found it to be quite helpful, and especially with my manager, to be able to have a chat about it if I'm feeling sort of lost or if I can't understand my work properly. She knows that there's a reason behind it, and it's not because I'm not capable of doing my job. It might just be because I'm having a bad day. So that's one thing. Certainly once you've told your employer, they can do something in the UK, I know for sure. You can have an access to work grant, and that doesn't actually cost the employer anything for a referral across them as far as I know. But it's basically so that they can get some tips and advice from health professionals as to what kind of adjustments they can make to make your working life easier. And it can be things that are very sort of basic and don't require any funding behind it. So for example, for me, I get to have flexible working hours to a degree. So if I'm struggling on a day and it gets to around midday and I can't think straight, I'm able to go home, have a rest, and then work from home for the rest of the time that I should have been at work carrying on. And I find that's really helpful to sort of break down my day and sort of get my head back into where it should be. So that's really useful. There are other things they can do, sort of desk adjustments and equipment they can actually buy for you. And I'm pretty sure with the Access to Work grant that you get through the government, that it is a grant, so the employer doesn't have to pay anything. I'll leave full description below because obviously I'm not absolute expert in the way it works, but if you speak to your occupational health department, they'll be able to do a referral for this. And it means that they can get you this equipment that's not at cost to them. So for me, I've had some text-to-talk software, which is so good. I didn't even know that it would be of use to me. I had the assessor come to my work and look at my equipment, and I was kind of thinking, well, what are you going to do? Because this is in my head. It's not like I just need a different chair or anything like that. I wasn't really sure what they could give me. But yeah, he found this text-to-talk software thing. So it means I just have this headset that I wear, and it's noise cancelling even. Because I work in a busy call centre, I sometimes get distracted if there's a lot of noise around me. So they're noise cancelling, so I can't hear anyone else and I can concentrate. But not only that, so if I get a long document to read and I can't take in what is actually written down, I can have it read back to me, sort of like Siri. It's quite odd to get used to, but it's so helpful. I cannot explain how much I've used it and how much it's really benefited me. I also have some desk adjustments that are visible, so things like screen, like hoods that go on top of my monitors to prevent any sort of light going into my screen. to prevent any glare, because that can affect my vision, and that was something they recommended. They also recommended using a company called Genius Within, and they're like a coaching company. I don't know if they're not world renowned or whatever, but if they're available all throughout the UK, but certainly in my area they were. And it was just a coach that came into work and sort of assessed how I pick things up, how I actually understand information, and what is the best way for me to actually work. So they wrote out this whole report, and there's lots of bits and pieces in it. So things about how to help my memory, my organisation, how to take notes, how to concentrate. But a lot of it was quite interesting, because they were just saying that I just need to be more confident in, if I'm not taking something in from a colleague, then I just need to say, can you slow down, or could you repeat that, or would you mind just dropping that in an email to me, just so that I make sure I've got my head around it. Another good thing that they suggested is doing mind mapping. So I find if I get a lot of information at once, I can't take it in, and I get so confused and really muddled. Whereas if I break it down into like a little mind map, like what you used to do at school, certainly I did anyway, then you can kind of break things down into different areas of what you're trying to get out of the information. And I found that so helpful, and I think that might be useful for people that are in education for definite. So that's quite interesting. The last thing I'd say would be, if you're in employment or starting employment, definitely join a union, a workplace union. I cannot tell you how helpful they are. As I said earlier, my last employer wasn't very kind, to say the least. I got warnings after warnings for being absent for something that I couldn't help. And at that time I had a union to back me. So when I had absence meetings, I had a member from the union come in with me who was clued up on employment law, disability discrimination and Equality Act and all that business. And they, again, would push for things like reasonable adjustments and occupational health assessments. So, but without that, which is what was the case for me, the job before that, I didn't have any support. So when I struggled with that employment, I didn't have anybody to assist me and didn't have much of a leg to stand on. So for me, my union membership, I think it's about £9 a month. And some employers do it so that it comes straight out of your pay packet. Others you can just do independently by yourself. But it's such a small amount, or at least not that large amount in terms of other things you might spend your money on. But if you need them, they can be so helpful and can really put your work or your employer back in place if they step out of line and if they start to treat you in the way that you shouldn't be treated. Obviously, employers should be treating you in a way that is equal to everybody. There are laws in place. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, and I've been through a lot of difficult times with employment, and I'm not going to say it was easy previously. I've really, really struggled to get my confidence back up to where it was before I had all this issue with my current employer now, and I still get worried that I might get sacked because of my condition, or they might think that I'm not, I don't know, eligible for a promotion or something like that. So all these kind of things are really important to have in place to support yourself within the work environment. I hope that was helpful. I'll leave any sort of links I have in the description box below. As always, if you found this useful, give it a big thumbs up. And if you have any suggestions for can't get my words out, content, not comments, then please let me know again in the comments below. As was said in the last video, my talking isn't quite there yet, and this is another thing with work. If my talking's not there, they know that it's because of my MS and not just because I can't speak properly. Sometimes I have these days, and that's life. So yeah, I will hopefully see you again next week, and let me know what you thought of this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.